The space station looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Harmony 7 was the biggest diplomatic station in this part of the galaxy. Ships from dozens of different worlds came here to talk, trade, and make deals. Today, something special was happening. Earth was sending its first real diplomatic team to join the big meetings. Tae-ho Kim stood at the window of the human transport ship, watching the station get bigger as they got closer. He wore the dress uniform of Earth's Special Forces with a green beret on his head. The uniform was neat and clean, but Tae-ho felt uncomfortable. He was used to combat gear, not fancy clothes for meetings. "Stop looking worried," said So-Ra Park, walking up next to him. She was the lead diplomat for Earth. Smart, calm, and always thinking 3 steps ahead. "We knew this would not be easy." "I know," Tae-ho said, "but I do not like going in blind. We know almost nothing about most of these alien species, how they think, how they fight, what makes them angry." Jin-Woo Lee, their communications expert, looked up from his computer. "I have been reading all the files we have. Most of these species think humans are, what is the word, primitive. They think we are not advanced enough to be here." So-Ra sighed. "That is exactly what I was afraid of. But we have to prove them wrong. Earth earned its place in the coalition. We fought hard for it." The transport ship docked with the station. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Tae-ho stepped out first, his eyes moving quickly around the docking area. It was his job to keep the diplomatic team safe, and he took that job very seriously. The docking bay was huge, much bigger than anything humans had built. The ceiling was so high that Tae-ho could barely see it. Strange lights hung in the air without any wires or supports. Aliens of different shapes and sizes moved around, some walking, some floating, some sliding on the floor like giant snakes. "Welcome to Harmony 7, said a voice. The translator in Tae-ho's ear turned the alien words into English. A tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms walked toward them. "I am Station Manager Kyloth. You must be the human delegation." So-Ra stepped forward with a smile. "Yes, I am Diplomat So-Ra Park. This is my security chief Tae-ho Kim and our communications specialist Jin-Woo Lee. Thank you for having us." Kyloth looked at them with large, dark eyes. Tae-ho could not tell what the alien was thinking. "The Coalition Council is very interested to meet you. Your species has caused quite a discussion." "Good discussion, I hope," So-Ra said politely. Kyloth did not answer right away. "Come, I will show you to your rooms. The opening ceremony begins in 4 hours." They walked through long corridors filled with aliens. Tae-ho noticed how the other species looked at them. Some stared openly. Others whispered to each other when the humans passed. A few laughed. None of the looks seemed friendly. "Are we the first humans they have seen?" Jin-Woo asked quietly. "Most of them, yes," Kyloth answered. "Your species is very new to galactic society. Many here are curious about the famous Death Worlders we have heard about." "Death Worlders?" So-Ra asked. "That is what they call your planet, Earth. Most species come from worlds that are safer. Your planet has poison in the air, water that falls from the sky, dangerous animals, diseases, wars. Most aliens think it is amazing that any intelligent life survived there at all." Tae-ho felt his jaw tighten. The way Kyloth said it made Earth sound like some kind of mistake, but he kept quiet. It was not his job to argue with aliens. That was So-Ra's job. Their rooms were small but clean. Each human got their own space with a bed, desk, and bathroom. The furniture was made for different body types, so everything felt a little wrong. The bed was too soft, the chairs too wide, the ceiling too high. "Get some rest," So-Ra told her team. "Tonight will be important. First impressions matter a lot in diplomacy." Tae-ho did not rest. Instead, he walked around the human section, checking. Security. The station was supposed to be neutral ground, but Tejo trusted nothing he could not verify himself. He found the emergency exits, the security cameras, and the quickest routes to the docking bay where their ship waited. As he walked, he overheard conversations. The translator in his ear worked on most languages, so he could understand what the aliens were saying about humans. "I heard their homeworld has gravity so strong it would crush most of us," said one alien that looked like a walking tree. "And they eat poison for fun," replied another that reminded Tejo of a giant spider. "They call it spicy food, but they are so small and weak-looking," said a third alien with scales and too many teeth. "How dangerous can they really be?" The tree alien made a sound like wind through leaves. The Korthani tested them in battle. The humans won, but barely. "I think the stories about them are bigger than the truth." Tejo kept walking, but he remembered those words. The Korthani. He had heard that name before. They were supposed to be great warriors, with a military that conquered many worlds. If they thought humans were weak, that could be a problem. 4 hours later, the human team walked into the main assembly hall. It was even bigger than the docking bay, with hundreds of seats arranged in circles. Representatives from dozens of species sat talking, arguing, and making deals. When the humans entered, the hall got quieter. All eyes turned to look at them. Tejo felt like an animal in a zoo. He kept his face blank and professional, the way he had been trained. "There they are," someone said loud enough for everyone to hear. "The Death Worlders." "They look so normal," said another voice. "I expected them to be bigger." "Maybe the stories about Earth were wrong," laughed a third alien. So-Ra walked to the seats marked for Earth's delegation. She held her head high and ignored the comments. Tejo and Jinwoo followed her, taking the seats on either side. The opening ceremony began. One by one, each species stood up and spoke about their goals for the meeting. When it was Earth's turn, Sora stood up. "We are honored to be here," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "Earth may be new to the galactic community, but we are ready to work with all species for peace and progress." Some aliens clapped politely, others just stared. A few whispered to each other and shook their heads. As Sora sat down, Tejo noticed a group of large reptilian aliens in military uniforms watching them closely. Their eyes were cold and calculating. One of them was much bigger than the others, with metal parts built into his body. That one pointed at Tejo and said something to his companions. They all laughed. Tejo had a bad feeling about this. The diplomatic reception was held in a huge room with windows looking out at the stars. Aliens from dozens of worlds moved around, talking in small groups, eating strange foods and making deals. The humans stayed together near one wall, trying to look friendly but feeling very much alone. Tejo watched everything while pretending to drink from a cup of something that tasted like metal. His training made him notice details, the way different species grouped together, which ones carried weapons, who looked nervous and who looked dangerous. The reptilian aliens he had noticed earlier were the most interesting. They were called the Korthani, according to Jinwoo's research. Their empire controlled 15 star systems and had the strongest military in this part of the galaxy. They wore dark uniforms with lots of medals and rank symbols. Their leader was obvious. He stood almost 8 feet tall, with green-brown scales and yellow eyes. Parts of his body had been replaced with metal and machines. One arm was completely artificial, made of black metal that gleamed under the lights. Cables ran from his skull into his uniform, connecting his brain directly to computer systems. "That is Colonel Vextar," Jinwoo said quietly, reading from his tablet. "He has fought in 12 major battles, never lost once. The Korthani consider him one of their greatest warriors." "He keeps looking at us," Tejo said. "Maybe he is just curious," Sora suggested, but she did not sound convinced. As the evening went on, the comments about humans got louder and more insulting. At first, They were just whispers. Then some aliens started talking openly, as if the humans could not understand. "Look at how small they are," said a blue-skinned alien with tentacles instead of arms. "My children are bigger than their soldiers. I heard their weapons still use chemical explosives," laughed another alien that looked like a walking crystal. "How primitive. We stopped using such things 1,000 years ago." "Their ships are so slow," added a third alien with too many eyes. "It takes them months to travel between stars. My people can cross the galaxy in weeks." Sora tried to join different conversations, but most aliens ignored her or gave short, polite answers before walking away. It was clear they did not take humans seriously. "They think we are some kind of joke," Jinwoo whispered to Taeho. "Let them think what they want," Taeho replied. "Underestimating your enemy is always a mistake." "We are not their enemy," Sora said, overhearing. "We are here to make friends." "Tell them that," Taeho said, nodding toward a group of aliens who were laughing while looking directly at the human delegation. The situation got worse when Colonel Vextar approached their group. He moved like a predator, smooth and confident. The other Korthani soldiers followed him, forming a circle around the humans. "So," Vextar said in a voice like grinding metal, "these are the famous Deathworlders we have heard so much about." His translator made his words sound polite, but his tone was mocking. The other aliens in the room started paying attention, sensing that something interesting was about to happen. "Colonel Vextar," Sora said with a diplomatic smile. "I am Diplomat Sora Park. We are pleased to meet you." Vextar looked down at her with cold yellow eyes. "Yes, I know who you are. I have read the reports about your species. Very interesting reading. We hope to build a good relationship between Earth and the Korthani Empire," Sora continued. "Build a relationship?" Vextar's laugh sounded like rocks breaking. "What could your primitive world possibly offer the Korthani Empire?" The room got quieter. More aliens moved closer to listen. Taeho felt the tension building like electricity in the air before a storm. "Earth has many resources," Sora said calmly. "Our people are hard-working and creative. We have new ideas and fresh perspectives." "Fresh perspectives," Vextar repeated. "Yes, I suppose when you are thousands of years behind the rest of the galaxy, everything would seem new to you." Some of the watching aliens laughed. Taeho's hands slowly closed into fists, but he kept them at his sides. Sora shot him a quick look that said, "Stay calm." "Your military records are particularly amusing," Vextar continued. "I read about your recent conflict with the Zephyrian raiders. You barely won, and only because the raiders were low on fuel and ammunition. Against real warriors, your primitive weapons and tactics would be useless." "We won," Taeho said quietly. It was the first time he had spoken since Vextar approached. Every eye in the area turned to look at him. "What did you say, little soldier?" Vextar asked. "I said we won," Taeho repeated, his voice calm and level. "The Zephyrian raiders attacked our colony ships. We stopped them. The details do not matter." Vexatar stepped closer. His cybernetic arm whirred softly as artificial muscles tensed. "The details matter very much. Your ships were damaged. Your weapons were inferior. Your tactics were desperate. You fought like animals backed into a corner." "Sometimes that is enough," Taeho said. The crowd of watching aliens was growing. Word was spreading through the reception that something was happening between the humans and the Korthani. Aliens stopped their conversations to come watch. "You think you are warriors," Vextar said, his voice getting louder. "But you are just barbarians who got lucky. Your whole species comes from a world so hostile that you never learned civilization. You only know violence and survival." "Colonel," Sora said, trying to step between them, "I think there has been a misunderstanding." Vextar ignored her completely. "Look at your soldier," he said to the crowd. "Small, weak, carrying ancient weapons. This is what Earth sends to protect their diplomats?" In the Korthani Empire, he would not qualify to guard a supply depot. More aliens gathered around them. Some were recording the conversation with devices Teho did not recognize. Others were making bets on what would happen next. Your technology is primitive, Vexitar continued. Your ships are slow, your weapons are crude, your armor is weak. But most importantly, your people are soft. You have never faced real hardship. The Korthani Empire has conquered worlds and fought enemies that would make your entire species flee in terror. Is that so? Teho asked quietly. It is so, Vextar said. I have personally killed more enemies than your entire military has ever faced. I have destroyed cities and conquered planets. What have you done, little human? Teho did not answer. He just looked up at the huge alien warrior with steady, calm eyes. Nothing to say? Vextar laughed. Of course not. You know I am right. You know that humans are nothing compared to real warriors like the Korthani. The crowd was getting excited. Aliens were pushing closer to get a better view. Some were taking bets on whether the human would run away or try to fight. This is exactly what I expected from Deathworlders, Vextar announced to the crowd. Big reputation. But when faced with a superior species, they have nothing to say. They just stand there and accept their place at the bottom of galactic society. Sora looked desperate. The diplomatic reception was turning into a public humiliation. Other species were watching to see how humans would react to being insulted and threatened. Colonel Vextar, she said. Perhaps we could discuss this privately. Privately? Vextar turned to look at her with obvious contempt. Why? So you can beg me to stop embarrassing your species? So you can offer bribes or make deals to save face? He looked around at the watching crowd. This is perfect. Let everyone see what humans are really like when they meet superior beings. Let them see how the famous Deathworlders react to real strength. Teho remained perfectly still and quiet. But inside his head, he was counting. Counting the number of enemies. Counting the distance to exits. Counting the weapons he could see. Counting the seconds until this diplomatic mission became something else entirely. The storm was coming. The crowd around them had grown to over 100 aliens. Representatives from dozens of worlds watched the confrontation between the Korthani colonel and the human delegation. The noise level in the reception hall had dropped to almost nothing. As everyone strained to hear what would happen next, Colonel Vextar was clearly enjoying himself. His yellow eyes gleamed as he looked down at the humans. The other Korthani soldiers behind him were grinning, showing rows of sharp teeth. I think I have made my point, Vextar said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. Humans are not ready for galactic society. They should go back to their little world and play with their primitive toys until they grow up. Sora took a deep breath. As a diplomat, it was her job to fix this situation before it got any worse. Colonel, Earth has already proven our worth by joining the coalition. We defeated the Zephyrian raiders and earned our place here. Earned? Vexitar laughed. You survived one small battle against weak pirates. That does not make you warriors. That makes you lucky. He turned to address the crowd directly. I propose we test these humans. Let them prove they deserve to be here. Let their soldier face one of my warriors in combat. When they lose, Earth should become a client state under Korthani protection. The crowd stirred with excitement. This was much more interesting than boring diplomatic talks. That is not necessary, Sora said quickly. We are here for peace negotiations, not combat demonstrations. Afraid? Vextar asked. Of course you are. Deep down, you know your species is inferior. You know that when tested against real warriors, you would fail. Teho finally spoke. What would happen if we won? Sora shot him a sharp look, but it was too late. The words were already out. Vextar's grin got even wider. You would not win. But if by some miracle you did, the Korthani Empire would support. Earth's full membership in the coalition, including a permanent seat on the Security Council. The offer was huge. A permanent seat on the Security Council would give Earth real power in galactic politics. But it was also impossible. Everyone knew humans could not defeat Korthani warriors in single combat. Teho, Sora said quietly. We cannot... Actually, interrupted a new voice. This sounds very entertaining. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was Ambassador Kulaneth, the representative of the hive mind species. The ambassador looked like a giant insect standing on two legs with compound eyes that reflected the room's lights. The hive mind would be very interested to see this contest, Kulaneth continued. We have heard many stories about both species. This would be a good way to learn the truth. Other aliens began voicing their agreement. The idea of watching humans and Korthani fight was too exciting to pass up. Soon, dozens of species were calling for the combat demonstration. Sora looked trapped. If she refused now, it would look like humans were cowards. But if she agreed, they would probably lose and damage Earth's reputation even more. I need time to discuss this with my government, she said. No time needed, Vexitar said. This human soldier can speak for himself. Are you a warrior, little man? Or are you just wearing a soldier's uniform to look important? All eyes turned to Teho. The crowd was completely silent, waiting for his answer. Teho looked up at the huge alien colonel. I am a soldier. Then prove it, Vexitar demanded. Fight one of my warriors. Show everyone what human military training is worth. Colonel, Sora tried one more time. Surely there are better ways to... Shut up, Vexitar snapped, his artificial voice turning harsh and angry. I am tired of listening to your diplomatic babbling. Your species thinks it can join the great powers of the galaxy, but you are nothing. Your technology is primitive, your culture is savage, and your soldiers are weak. The insult to Sora made something change in the room's atmosphere. Even some of the alien observers looked uncomfortable. Telling a diplomat to shut up during a formal reception was a serious breach of protocol. But Vexitar was not finished. Your females especially amuse me. On Earth, I hear your women pretend to be equal to your men. How ridiculous. Incivilized. Species, females know their place. He looked directly at Sora with obvious contempt. You think you can negotiate with real powers like the Korthani Empire? You should be serving drinks and staying quiet while the males handle important matters. The crowd's mood shifted. Even species that looked down on humans seemed uncomfortable with Vexitar's crude behavior. Diplomatic receptions had rules, and the colonel was breaking all of them. Jinwu whispered urgently to Sora. This is being recorded by dozens of species. If we do nothing, every government in the galaxy will see humans as weak. Teho took one step forward. It was a small movement, but everyone noticed it. The crowd held its breath. Apologize to the diplomat, Teho said quietly. Vexitar stared down at him in amazement. What did you say? You heard me. Apologize to Diplomat Park for your insulting behavior. The reception hall was so quiet that the soft hum of the station's air recycling system seemed loud. Vexitar's artificial arm made a soft whirring sound as he clenched his metal fist. You think you can give me orders, human? You think your primitive species has any authority over the Korthani Empire? I think you should apologize, Teho repeated. Instead of apologizing, Vexitar stepped even closer. His huge form towered over the human soldier. Let me explain something to you, little Death Worlder. I have killed thousands of enemies with these hands. I have destroyed cities and conquered worlds. You are an insect compared to me. He raised his artificial hand and pointed one metal finger at Teho's chest. Your entire species is nothing but a mistake of evolution. You survived on your hostile world by accident, not skill. And now you think you can stand with real warriors? The metal finger poked Teho in the chest, hard enough to hurt. You are animals pretending to be civilized, barbarians playing dress-up, in uniforms you do not deserve to wear. Tejo did not move or react. He just stood there, looking up at the alien colonel with calm, steady eyes. "Nothing to say?" Vextar asked. "Good. Then you are learning your place. Maybe humans can be trained. After all," he turned to address the crowd, "see how easily they submit when faced with superior force? This is what I expected from—" Vextar never finished the sentence. His artificial hand swept across in a vicious backhand slap that caught Tejo across the face. The sound of metal hitting flesh echoed through the silent reception hall. The force of the blow sent Tejo stumbling sideways. Blood trickled from his split lip where the metal fingers had cut him. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers and excited chatter. Some aliens cheered. Others looked uncomfortable. A few began making recordings of everything. Vextar stood with his artificial arm still extended, grinning at the watching crowd. "This is how we handle disrespectful primitives in the Korthani. Empire. A simple lesson in hierarchy." Tejo slowly straightened up. He touched the blood on his lip with one finger, looked at it for a moment, then wiped it away. The reception hall fell completely silent again. Tejo began unbuttoning his dress uniform jacket. His movements were slow and deliberate. Every alien in the room watched as he removed the formal military jacket and handed it to Jinwoo. 20 seconds, Tejo said quietly. His voice was so soft that the crowd had to strain to hear him, but somehow, every word carried clearly through the massive hall. "What?" Vexatar asked, confusion replacing his smug grin. "I said 20 seconds, Tejo repeated, rolling up the sleeves of his white uniform shirt. "That is how long it took my grandfather to kill 3 enemy soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. My father did it in 18 seconds when terrorists threatened civilians." Tejo finished rolling up his sleeves and looked directly into Vextar's yellow eyes. "I am faster than both of them." The reception hall was so quiet that Tejo could hear his own heartbeat. Over 100 alien beings stood frozen, watching the small human soldier face the massive Korthani colonel. Vexatar stared down at Tejo for several seconds, processing what the human had just said. Then he threw back his head and laughed. The sound echoed off the high ceiling like breaking glass. "You think you are threatening me?" Vexatar asked between laughs. "You think your primitive human fighting techniques can harm a Korthani warrior?" He held up his artificial arm, flexing the metal fingers. Servos whirred and pistons hissed as the cybernetic limb moved. "This arm can crush steel. My bones are reinforced with titanium alloy. My reflexes are enhanced by computer systems connected directly to my brain." The other Korthani soldiers behind him were grinning and making sounds that might have been laughter. The crowd of watching aliens was getting excited again. Some were taking bets on how quickly the human would be defeated. "I have fought in 12 major battles," Vexatar continued. "I have never lost. I have killed enemies from dozens of worlds. And you think your 20-second story is supposed to frighten me?" Tejo did not answer. He just stood there, perfectly calm, watching the huge alien with steady eyes. Sora grabbed Tejo's arm. "Stop this," she whispered urgently. "This is not what we came here for. We are diplomats, not gladiators." "He struck a member of Earth's diplomatic team," Tejo said, quietly, not taking his eyes off Vextar. "In front of representatives from dozens of worlds. If we do nothing, every species in the galaxy will think humans are weak." "If you fight him, you will die," Sora said. "Maybe," Tejo agreed, "but I will not die quietly." Jinwoo was frantically working on his tablet, trying to contact Earth's government. "I can get orders from home in 10 minutes, he said. "Just wait 10 minutes. "No time," Tejo said. "This has to be decided now, or it will never end." Ambassador Kulneth stepped forward, her insect-like head tilting to one side. The hive mind is very curious about this situation. We have heard many stories about human warriors, but we have never seen one fight. Other aliens began voicing their opinions. Most thought the human was insane for challenging a Korthani warrior. A few seemed impressed by his courage, even if they thought he would lose. "Make space," Vextar commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. The crowd of aliens moved back, forming a large circle around the two opponents. Station security appeared at the edges of the crowd, but they made no move to intervene. Combat between diplomatic representatives was technically legal on Harmony 7, as long as both sides agreed to it. "You still have time to apologize," Vextar told Teho. "Bow down. Admit that humans are inferior, and I might only break a few of your bones." "No," Teho said simply. Vextar's expression changed. The mocking smile disappeared, replaced by cold anger. "Then you die." The alien colonel began removing his own formal jacket and medals. Underneath his body was a mixture of natural scales and artificial enhancements. Cables ran from ports in his skull down to connectors in his spine. His left arm was completely mechanical, made of black metal and fiber optic cables. His right leg had been replaced from the knee down with a cybernetic limb that hissed softly with each movement. "Look at me," Vextar said to the crowd. 30 years of battle, 18 major cybernetic enhancements, direct neural connection to tactical computers. This is what a real warrior looks like. He pointed at Teho with his artificial hand. "Now, look at him. Soft flesh, primitive equipment, no enhancements. This is what passes for a soldier on the death world of Earth." The aliens in the crowd murmured their agreement. The size difference was obvious. Vextar stood almost 8 feet tall, and probably weighed 3 times as much as Teho. His cybernetic enhancements gave him strength that no natural being could match. Teho looked small and fragile in comparison. Just a human in a white shirt and black pants, standing calmly in the center of the circle. "Jinwoo," Teho said quietly. "Start timing." Jinwoo looked at his tablet with shaking hands. "Timing what?" "The fight. I want to know exactly how long it takes." Vexatar heard this and laughed again. "Timing the fight? It will be over before your friend can blink." "We will see," Teho said. The crowd pressed closer, everyone wanting a good view of what they expected to be a very short and brutal fight. Aliens from dozens of worlds had their recording devices ready. This would be talked about in diplomatic circles for years. "Begin when ready," announced Ambassador Kulneth, apparently deciding to act as referee. Vexatar raised his artificial fist and roared a battle cry that echoed through the reception hall. The sound was like a fusion reactor exploding. His cybernetic systems activated, flooding his body with combat drugs and connecting his brain directly to tactical analysis programs. Teho did not make any sound. He just shifted his weight slightly, moving into a fighting stance that looked casual but was actually the result of years of training. "Now!" Vexatar shouted and charged forward. The alien colonel was incredibly fast for something his size. His cybernetic leg drove him across the space between them in less than 2 seconds. His artificial fist swung in an arc that would have taken Teho's head clean off his shoulders, but Teho was not there when the fist arrived. The human had moved at the last possible moment, stepping inside Vextar's reach, the huge aliens. Punch whistled through empty air while Teho seemed to flow like water around the attack. Vextar's combat computers instantly calculated a new attack pattern. His natural arm swept down in a backhand that should have crushed Teho's ribs. Again, the human was not where the attack landed. He had moved just enough to let the alien's arm pass by his body without touching him. "Stand still and fight," Vexatar roared. Teho did not answer. He was studying his opponent, learning how the cybernetic enhancements affected Vexatar's movement patterns. The artificial limbs were powerful but not perfectly integrated with the alien's natural body. There were tiny delays between thought and action where the biological and mechanical systems had to coordinate. Vexitar attacked again, this time with both arms at once. His artificial hand grabbed for Teho's throat while his natural hand tried to catch the human around the waist. Teho ducked under both attacks and stepped behind Vexitar. For just a moment, he was in perfect position to strike at the alien's spine where the cybernetic cables connected. But he did not attack. Not yet. "What are you doing?" Vexitar demanded, spinning around to face him. "Fight me!" "I am fighting you," Teho said calmly. "You just do not understand how humans fight." Vexitar's yellow eyes blazed with rage. His combat systems were telling him that he should have already won. The human should be dead or at least badly injured. But somehow, none of his attacks had even touched his opponent. "Enough games!" Vexitar activated all his cybernetic systems at once. Combat drugs flooded his bloodstream. His artificial limbs moved with maximum power. His neural computers calculated dozens of attack patterns simultaneously. He attacked with everything he had, moving in a blur of metal and scales and fury. His fists struck like hammers. His feet kicked like pile drivers. His artificial hand grabbed with enough force to crush rock. And still, somehow, he could not touch the human. Teho moved through the storm of attacks like he was dancing. He bent away from punches that came within inches of his face. He stepped aside from kicks that would have broken his spine. He slipped between grasping artificial fingers that could have torn his arms off. The watching aliens began to murmur, in amazement. They had never seen anything like this. The huge, powerful, cybernetically enhanced warrior was attacking with incredible speed and strength. But he could not hit the small, unaugmented human. Impossible. The reception hall fell into absolute silence. Over 100 alien beings stared at the scene in front of them, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Colonel Vexitar, the greatest warrior of the Korthani Empire, lay motionless on the metal floor. His skull was cracked like an egg. Blood and other fluids leaked from the massive head wound. His cybernetic systems sparked and failed one by one as their neural connections were severed. Teho stood over the body, breathing calmly. There was not a mark on him except for the split lip from Vexitar's earlier slap. His white uniform shirt was not even wrinkled. 21 seconds, Jinwoo said quietly, looking down at his tablet in amazement. The first sound came from one of the Korthani soldiers. A low moan of disbelief and horror as he stared at his fallen colonel. The other Korthani warriors looked like they were seeing a nightmare come to life. Then other aliens began to react. Some backed away from Teho as if he were a dangerous animal. Others pushed forward, trying to get a better look at Vexitar's body. A few were recording everything, capturing the moment for their governments to analyze. "Is he dead?" asked Ambassador Kulneth, her insect voice clicking with curiosity. Teho knelt down and checked for a pulse at Vexitar's throat. After a moment, he stood up and nodded. "Yes." The simple words seemed to break a spell that had fallen over the crowd. Suddenly, everyone was talking at once. Aliens were shouting in dozens of languages, arguing about what they had just seen. "Impossible," one alien kept repeating. "Cybernetically enhanced Korthani warriors do not lose to primitive humans." "I recorded everything," said another. "My government will never believe this without proof." "How did he move so fast?" asked a third. "No natural being should be able to avoid cybernetic attacks like that." Sora walked over to Teho, her face pale but determined. "Are you hurt?" "No," Teho said. He picked up his dress uniform jacket from Jinwoo and began putting it back on. His hands were perfectly steady. "The Korthani will want revenge for this," Sora said quietly. "Killing their greatest warrior will have consequences." "He challenged me to combat," Teho said, buttoning his jacket. "In front of witnesses from dozens of worlds. Everything I did was legal under galactic law." One of the surviving Korthani soldiers stepped forward. He was smaller than Vextar had been, but still huge compared to the humans. His scales were darker and his cybernetic enhancements less extensive. "I am Major Kexvol," he said, his artificial voice shaking with rage and disbelief. "Colonel Vextar was my commanding officer and my friend. You murdered him." "I defended myself and my delegation from an unprovoked attack," Teho replied calmly. "Your colonel struck a member of Earth's diplomatic team and issued a formal combat challenge. I accepted." "You used trickery," Kexavol accused, "some kind of human deception. No primitive species could defeat advanced Korthani technology in fair combat." "There was no trickery," said Ambassador Kulneth. "The hive mind recorded everything. The human used only natural abilities and training. No weapons, no technology, no assistance." Other alien observers began confirming what they had seen. The fight had been conducted according to Galactic combat protocols. Both participants had agreed to the terms. The human had won fairly. Major Kexavol looked around the crowd, seeing agreement in dozens of alien faces. His own people were nodding reluctantly. There was no way to claim the fight had been unfair. "But how?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Vexitar was enhanced. His reflexes were computer-assisted. His strength was multiplied by cybernetic systems. How could a natural human defeat him?" Teho looked at the alien major with something that might have been sympathy. "Your colonel made the same mistake that many people make when they fight humans. He assumed that bigger and stronger always wins." "Does it not?" asked Ambassador Kulneth, genuinely curious. "No," Teho said. "On Earth, the biggest and strongest animals are not usually the most dangerous ones. A tiger is smaller than an elephant, but much more deadly. A human is smaller than a bear, but humans killed all the bears that threatened us." He looked around the crowd of watching aliens. "Your colonel had powerful cybernetic enhancements, but those enhancements made him slower, not faster. They made him predictable, not adaptable. He relied on his technology instead of his instincts." "And you?" asked Kulneth. "What did you rely on?" "Training," Teho said simply. "Millions of years of evolution on a world where everything was trying to kill us. Thousands of years of warfare against enemies who were bigger, stronger, or more numerous than we were. And 20 years of military education that taught me how to fight aliens whose capabilities I did not fully understand." Jinwoo had been listening to the conversation while working on his tablet. Now he looked up with an expression of amazement. "I have been researching Korthani physiology," he said. "Their cybernetic systems have built-in delays to prevent feedback, loops between biological and artificial components. Each enhancement adds about 50 milliseconds of processing time to their reactions." "50 milliseconds is not very much," said one of the aliens in the crowd. "It is an eternity in combat," Teho said. "When someone is trying to kill you, 50 milliseconds is the difference between life and death." Sora stepped forward to address the crowd. "What happened here tonight was tragic, but it was also necessary. Colonel Vextar insulted Earth's diplomatic mission and physically attacked a member of our delegation. We could not let that stand." She looked around at the representatives from dozens of worlds. "Every species here needs to understand that humans will defend themselves when threatened. We did not come to the galaxy looking for fights, but we will not back down from them either." "Is that a threat?" asked Major Kexvol. "It is a fact," Sora replied. "Earth wants peaceful relationships with all galactic species, but we will not be bullied or insulted. We earned our place in the coalition through combat, and we are prepared to defend it the same way." Ambassador Kulneth tilted her insect head thoughtfully. "The hive mind is very interested in this development. We had heard stories about human military capabilities, but we assumed they were exaggerated." "What other capabilities do humans possess?" asked another alien. Sora smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Colonel Vexitar called us primitive. He said our weapons were crude and our tactics were desperate, but he made one critical error in his analysis. What error? Asked Kulneth. He assumed that primitive meant inferior, Sora said. But sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle. When diplomacy fails, violence must be swift, decisive, and overwhelming. She looked directly at Major Kexval. Your colonel wanted to test human military capabilities. The test is complete. We hope the results will discourage others from making similar challenges. The Korthani major looked down at Vextar's body, then back at the humans. This changes everything. The Empire will need to reconsider our relationship with Earth. We hope so, Sora said. Earth prefers cooperation to conflict, but we are prepared for either. Teho finished adjusting his uniform and stepped back to his position beside Sora. To anyone watching, he looked like nothing more than a professional bodyguard doing his job. But every alien in the room now understood the truth. They had seen what human training and evolution could produce. They had watched a natural human defeat advanced alien technology through nothing but skill, speed, and ruthless efficiency. The reception is over, announced Station Manager Kyloth, finally breaking his silence. All delegations should return to their quarters. Security teams will handle the cleanup. As the crowd began to disperse, aliens spoke in hushed voices about what they had witnessed. Representatives hurried to contact their home governments with urgent reports about human capabilities. The three humans walked back toward their quarters together. Other aliens moved out of their way without being asked. Jin Wu, Teho said, quietly. In your report, make sure you note that it took 21 seconds, not 20. I want the record to be accurate. Why does that matter? Jin Wu asked. Because next time someone challenges a human to combat, they should know exactly what they are facing. Sora looked at her security chief with new respect. Do you think there will be a next time? Teho considered the question seriously. Probably not. Word will spread quickly about what happened tonight. Most species will decide that cooperation is safer than confrontation. And the ones that do not? Teho's expression did not change. They will learn the same lesson Colonel Vextar learned, but hopefully faster. Behind them, alien intelligence agencies were already updating their threat assessments of human military capabilities. The galaxy had learned something important. Tonight, humans might be primitive by galactic standards, but they were not weak. And in the dangerous universe beyond Earth's solar system, that distinction might mean the difference between respect and extinction.